Good to see you back. Glad you're here. I decided to go ahead and put a second coat of paint on the bottom down here. You know, now's the time to do it. Got a nice second coat. I even was able to get up underneath there real good. Got a few drips on the wheels themselves, but who cares, you know? I'm looking here for, just longevity, just make this thing last as long as possible, long after I'm gone. Well, while I'm sitting here doing this stuff, I decided to take a break in the action. Yeah, the action. And take a look at that blue color on the inside of the cabinet. And I began to wonder. I said, I've been talking to Sparky, 1958, and one of our good subscribers about the color. And I went downtown and I talked to the guy at the paint store, and I matched a few color chips up to what was at the paint store. And boy, I'll show you all that stuff later on. Anyway, I got thinking. I said, I wonder if the manual tells us what color blue that is. So I opened up the old book here. I don't know why I didn't think about this sooner. I live and learn, And right here it says on the finish, there it is on page 1411 of this manual, it says satin silver on ebony. Well, apparently that's a blue and silver mixture that they've put together and just sprayed it right over the top of the black. Don't ask me why. Well, up here it doesn't look like it was on top of the black at all. I don't see any black when I scrape down, below the blue. I don't understand that. So the rest of the cabinet is black, and the blue parts are satin silver. Satin silver. Which doesn't really help us much, but I just thought anybody interested would like to know that. I've made a command decision concerning this cabinet. I've decided that we're so close to finishing the gluing on it, I decided to just go ahead and press on. Just keep driving on until we get it done. I've been working on these edges that were peeling away. And I got looking at them real close, and I realized that this plastic coating here, it's almost like shelf paper, the old, what they used to call it, stick-on paper. I can't remember what contact paper. It's almost like that, only a lot thicker. But when it peeled away from the wood, it took part of the wood with it. Well, it had a very, very, very thin piece of veneer. Actually, there was the plywood, then they put a very, very thin piece of veneer over it, and then they put this stuff over the top of the veneer. So when it peeled away, it took a very thin layer of the veneer with it, which turned out to be exactly what I needed, because I could use wood glue to glue it back, because the veneer is wood. So I went ahead and I brushed it all down in there with a small brush all the way down and began clamping it just like you see right here. And I'll tell you what, the other side's already been done all the way down, just as tight as can be, nice and sharp. I like that. That really came out much better than I thought. Now some of it, of course, is ripped away over the years, but we're going to leave it like that. Like I said, there again, that's the story of this jukebox. I can't imagine how that stuff could. I guess maybe old age. I don't know. I just don't know. But we're going to be stripping and painting this before the video is over. And I was wanting to put the hinges in, but I think I better delay those hinges a little bit until I get the inside washed out and cleaned and start getting the area painted where I want to put the hinges. Once that's done, I'm going to, of course, paint those two metal plates that are used for the hinges. I'm going to spray those with clear enamel and go ahead and start painting the inside. And once we get all that done, we'll put the door on. Then we'll set this baby up on its legs. It's time for this thing to stand upright. So right now, let's take this down. I still have this edge down here to do. Same thing, getting this stuff, put back up. And I have the other edge to do. And I think that's it. So let's get started on that. Meanwhile, for those of you who keep up with my videos, I've been working on the garage outside that door right there, trying to get everything squared away. I had crap laying everywhere. I'm running out of warm weather, so I have to devote a lot of time out there and not so much time in here. So I'm doing my best, to go back and forth. We've made a lot of progress out in the garage. We'll show you that in the next mishmash video. But, we're going to keep driving on with this. I want this baby up vertically. I want it on its feet. That'll be kind of nice for a change. Well, it looks like I'm going to have to deviate from originality on the edge here. I hadn't really looked this close along here. Look how messed up this is. There's not a whole lot I can do about this. Even if I clamp it down, it's still going to look like crap. I think, look over here. Boy, this thing really took a beating over the years. I think what I need to do is trim all this off, about maybe up about 3/4 of an inch, half an inch, 3/4 of an inch, all the way across. Just trim it off, and then remove this best I can, and put a piece of molding across there. Glue the molding down, or tack it down, and then paint the molding. I think that'll look a whole lot better, and it'll cover up a lot of this crap right here. I might be able to chop that off and iron in some wood, or glue in some wood and even it up. Oh well, like I said, it's going to take more work than anticipated, but that's what we're going to do. Let's see if I can't get that trimmed right now. Well, this is the way we're going to do it. I took my long 3-foot level, clamped it in place with some wood, and what I'm going to do now is just take this old box cutter thing, or whatever they call it. I can't even remember what they call these stupid things. A cobalt cutter. And I'm just going to cut right along the edge there, cut fairly deep, and then go ahead and remove all that. So let's get it cut first. Let's see if I can do it without cutting my hand or chopping off a finger. Well, it looks a whole lot better. I mean, it's got a lot of black paint marks on there, but that's nice and smooth. I got rid of all the crap, cut it out, and what we're going to do is take this iron-on veneer and fill that in. Then over here we got another piece that was real bad. I'm going to wind up jamming I'll jam a bunch of crap up in there and glue it in and kind of level it out, square it out. It's going to take a lot longer than I thought. God, I tell you, every time I think I'm getting to the end, it just doesn't want to cooperate. Anyway, we'll go ahead and take this veneer. Once we get that thing filled in, we'll take the veneer and iron that on there. Then we'll go ahead and put some molding. Nice molding all the way down that'll protect it in the future. At least that's the plan right now. By the way, this here, if you look real close, see the veneer? That's the veneer I was telling you about right there. They took the plywood and they put that, let me get real close down in there. Yeah, they took the plywood and put a little thin layer of veneer right over the top of it right there. Well, you think you know something about, or you have learned something about the item you're working on during a restoration, and then you find out you don't know about it at all. I'm talking about this so-called, what I call it, contact paper on top of veneer. Boy, was I off base on that. We'll cover that in a second. First, I want to show you the repair work that's been done. This is what the edging looks like right now. If I can get the glare out of the camera, maybe zero in on it there. There you go. It looks a whole lot better now. It's nice and smooth, nice and level, all the way down. All the patchwork has been done. And what we're going to do now that we have everything done, with the exception of this layer of veneer right here. Now we're up to that point right here. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to paint this, put some primer on it. And first I'm going to seal it, and I'm going to put some primer on it. Then we're going to paint it. And eventually, this is the molding. I went down to Lowe's and picked myself up some good molding. It's got a nice little lip on the edge, but not really deep, you know. So once we're done, this will be painted black also. This will go across there like that and drop down like that and go on there like that. That's going to be a really nice edge along the bottom here. And we'll just cut what we need. Interesting thing about the stripes they put on this thing, though, see how crooked they are? That's just the way it was done. I'm not sure I understand how it turned out like that, but you know, it wasn't the way I cut it. If you use the edge right here, this is the straight edge that they used. It doesn't really matter how I cut the black part off, but see, you put that right up against that straight edge and you can see that it is crooked. Kind of straight. Look at that, it goes all the way down to a point. So nothing to do with me. That's just the way the lines were put on there. Now for what I thought I understood, but I don't understand. This is not contact paper on top of veneer, on top of very, very thin veneer. It's strictly thin veneer on top of plywood, and then they painted it. I didn't know that. I can't believe it took me this long to realize that. The way things were peeled up at the bottom here, it looked for sure like a layer of some kind of stick-on paper. that made it black. But actually what that was, I guess, was just a a layer of paint, very half the thickness of the veneer with the paint on it had peeled up, leaving the bottom, the second half of the veneer still stuck to the plywood. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Okay. Well, anyway, that's it. There is no stick-on paper. Let's get down close on this. I can't believe I didn't notice this before. See all the wood grain? That's just paint on top of the veneer. Okay, what we're going to do now is, since that is paint, I wonder, you see these raises in the wood? It seems to me, if that's the case, veneer should have glue underneath it, I should be able to take this iron and iron down these bumps. Let's iron down one and see how it works. I'm not going to do them all. I'm just going to do one and see if it even works at all. So let's see what happens here. Probably going to cause a little bit of paint damage maybe, but we can touch that up. Look at that. Ironed it right down. Right down. I think we might even be able to turn the heat down a little bit, which will keep the paint from melting a little more. Let's crank it down, then I'll come back. While our iron's cooling down, one more thing about this molding that will go on the bottom of the cabinet on the sides. Before I can do that, these pieces of chrome will have to be, first they got to be cleaned up and derusted, but they'll go back on. And I think what I'm going to do is put the molding right over it once I get it all screwed in. I'm only going to nail this stuff on. I'm not going to glue it, because someday it may be all boogered up and torn up, and if it's all glued on there and they have to remove it and maybe put something else on there, it would tear up all the wood underneath that I just repaired. So we'll just nail it on with small finishing nails all the way down, and that'll make it easy to get off if they ever want to take this chrome piece off too. But I put the chrome piece back on. I'll probably wind up just cutting this at an angle like that, right like that, and just put it right on over the top of the chrome piece. I'll bevel it down a little bit, with the sandpaper and everything. But once it's painted, if I don't do it that way, if I move the molding this way to clear the chrome, it exposes some of the bare wood under there, and I don't want that. So we'll try it one way first, and before we nail it. And if it doesn't work well, then we'll try plan B. Right now, our iron should have been cooled down enough. I put it on nylon. So let's try this one right here, real close to the white. I don't want to mess that white tape up. We'll just press it down a little bit. Well, that's working pretty darn good. Look at that. Look at that. Ooh, my goodness. I am so impressed with that. Just press it down. That's all you got to do. You don't even have to iron it. Look at that. Now, of course, tomorrow morning, it may be back up again, but I hope not. There. Alright. Well, it looks like we're on a roll. Let's go ahead and get this one down, too. Right now, like I said, the setting is on nylon. We're not overheating the paint. Just kind of squishing things down a little bit. Well, I'm impressed. What do you think, guys? Huh? I'll tell you what, I want to do another one. This one right here. Oh my goodness. Look at that. Ooh, by the way, I was in a flea market a couple days ago, and there was a small travel iron in there that had a Teflon coated bottom. I almost picked that sucker up, but I said, I've got one I've already spent money on years ago. It's still brand new. But that little small travel iron, yeah, I think it had like one setting for press out your suit tie or whatever you want to press it out with. Look at that, man. That works. Okay, you don't have to go crazy on this. Just kind of let the iron do the work. I'm impressed. Just got to be careful of that white tape. I don't want to mess it. I can get it. I'm sure at some car store where they have pinstriping and stuff like that. By the way, while I'm doing this, one last thing. Some of you advised me to go to a urologist as a result of my massive kidney stone passing that I just completed. I had already made an appointment. I mean, when you have passed that many kidney stones, somebody needs to look at you, that has a lot more smarts in that area than you do. So I went to him today. It takes a long time to get an appointment with one of those jokers. I went to him today, and he checked my prostate, and he did a he looked at my PSA readings from my doctor, and he said, no, I'm not completely scared or anything like that about that. He said your PSA reading is really good. He said for a man your age. I like hearing that. But he said no problem at all. And then he said, well, we're going to have to do a physical exam. I said, you mean like the finger wave? He says, yeah, sorry about that. So he pulled out his finger about the size of a mortar round, and he went ahead and checked me out, and he says, no, you're good. He said, just a little more enlarged, but there again, your age factor. I said, okay. He said, however, the kidney stones are what bothered me. He says, why don't we go ahead and do I guess it's an MRI? CT scan? Something like that. And he said, so he scheduled me for this Friday. I have to go in and get a CT scan or an MRI on my lower area where my kidney is. And he said, then when that's done, he said, I'll let you know what the results are. And he said, I also want to do a cystoscopy. I don't know what it is. He runs a lighted scope up into the kidney, looks around. See, he said, I want to make sure there's no tumors in there. He said, I don't suspect anything, but he said, since you're here, let's invest the time and energy and get it all done so we can have peace of mind. Yeah, all right. This guy would have been a great car salesman. I said, okay, all right, let's do that. So this Friday, which is I don't even know what it is. Today's the 9th. So this Friday, today's Monday the 9th of October. This Friday they'll do the MRI, and then the 30th of the month, I go in and get that that scope into the old kidney. That's going to be a lot of fun. So for those of you who had commented on do this, do that, do this, do that, okay, I've done it, okay? I'll let you know what the results are when we're all done. Well, as you can see, the other side on the bottom is in just as bad a shape. Maybe not quite as bad, but pretty close to it as the other one was. So this again will all have to be cut off, glued down. Look at this whole thing here is lifted up. We're going to have to do a lot of work along this little part right here. But there's no sense in it. Incidentally, if you notice how shiny this side is, it's kind of strange, huh? The other side is real dull. This side's real shiny. I don't know. It may have been painted and restriped at one time. I don't know. But anyway, we're not going to go ahead and show you all that stuff that I've already done before. What we're going to do is flip this thing over this way, and we're going to start stripping the paint off of these. And then I'll do this later on after the paint's all stripped and this back part is painted. Then we'll come back. Well, we'll only strip one side of this. The other side will be the same exact procedure. No sense in reinventing the wheel again. So what we're going to do is just going to take this old stripper, lay it on there using a foam, these foam rubber brushes. I have several of them, smaller ones, wider ones. And then after it's set for a while and bubbled up the paint, we'll go ahead and use these plastic scrapers to get the paint up. And then we'll just wipe it on paper towels, which are these. And it's always a good idea, if you're going to have to scrape paint or varnish or something like that off of wood after it's had stripper put on, in particular on your radio cabinets, you don't want to use metal putty knives because you dig into the wood. I mean, that's the dumbest thing, Use plastic, and if you have to, lay a little bit more stripper on there after you've cleaned it off and it hasn't quite got all the finish or whatever it is. You got to be patient with it. Take your time, work with it. But above all, use your plastic on your real thin veneer vintage radios. I have a lot of leeway on this because it's a big old piece of plywood. I could go ahead and use metal and a putty knife, probably get away with it, but I don't want to do that. I want to stay in the mode of using plastic. They're cheaper, and you can toss them away if they go to pieces. You can just buy more. So let's get started on this. Alright, the first thing we do is we just pour a little on there like that. You can put some in a bowl. If a little bit drips through the holes, I'm not going to have a heart attack over it. It's not the end of the world except up here around this wire. I certainly don't want that to happen. I'll tell you what, let's just put another little blob right here. No, you don't have to put a ton of it. That's about enough. And here we go. Alright, she's been soaking for about 5 minutes, and some of this veneer might lift off, like right here. Just be careful around it. We'll go ahead and wash it down if we have to. we'll go ahead and cut this right across and lay another piece in there. I have some wider veneer if I need it. And we'll just kind of, because this is all ragged down here along this edge anywhere, where somebody sanded it and sanded it till they got down to where it had nothing but a feather edge. That's what that is right there. The rest of it's coming off nice. And some of you may say, well, why are you even stripping it at all? Well, because it's ragged and really torn up like that one over there. I mean, you put some paint on there, you're still going to see all that. You know, I want to kind of make it as best as I can. I'm certainly not an expert at any of this stuff. So I want to make it look, you know, as presentable as possible. You know, this is not really, this really doesn't qualify as a restoration, I guess, even though I've been calling it that. It's more of a general refurbishment, okay? Let me go ahead and start or continue to scrape this all off and then wash it all down best I can, clean it up, and then we'll probably lay some glue underneath here and let it dry all night and come back in the morning. So that's going to end, I think, this video. And just a matter of scraping and cleaning. You don't need to see any more of that. Piece of cake there. Wiping down, using a lot of paper towels and even a cloth rag, I guess. So until next time, this is John. Whoop, whoop, whoop. One more quick note. After I got done cleaning off all that nasty old paint, I discovered, look how thin this is. This is just so thin, it just lifted up at the bottom. There's no sense in trying to mess with that anymore. It's just really bad where they sanded it all the way through. So I'll just go ahead and cut this straight across, you know, with the old X-Acto knife or whatever they call that thing, box cutter. And I'll have a piece ironed in by next time, and we'll have this entire thing painted. Apparently, you know, there was a lot of, whoever tried to do this repair before, he used all kinds of nails to hold the veneer down instead of sliding in some glue and ironing it down. I guess he just didn't know about that. Because up here, here's some more nails that got exposed that hold this part of the veneer down. I'm going to pull those out and get rid of those. But anyway, I'll leave this. I'm not going to worry about that. And I'm going to go ahead and leave this also. At least I think I will. I may cut it all the way down and, you know, lay another iron-on edging in there. I don't know. But it'll be done looking a whole lot better next time.